Hi, I'm David. I own and operate Country Whatnot Gardens here outside of Rochester, Indiana, which is an hour south of the Michigan state line. I grow 25 different species and varieties of bamboo, and behind me is Sasa oshidensis. And it took negative 8.86 around January the 15th of this year. And you can see the topmost leaves are wind burnt, but down in here, look at all this green foliage we have. Still pretty green, not bad. We didn't have a lot of snow cover this year either. At the time of the worst temperature, I think we had maybe an inch, maybe slightly more of snow. Wasn't enough to cover these really. In years past, when we've had a wet, heavy snow that likes to stick to things, it likes to stick to these broad surfaces of these leaves here, which will weight it then to the ground and cover it and protect it from the cold temperatures. But we didn't have that this year, and even though we didn't, it still performed reasonably well. There's still a lot of green foliage down in here. And we're into February now, and it's not looking too bad for this far north. Not bad at all. I'm pretty happy with it. So it's a nice ground cover. I think the maximum height on this is reported to be 6 feet. It's not yet. It is maybe 2.5 feet up to there to the tallest culm. It's growing here underneath a Yoshino cherry tree, and it likes this high open shade. And there is another patch of the same species right over there by those arborvitae, and you can see that they're in the denser shade up closer to the trees. It is smaller and not doing as prolific. And over here in the higher shade, this is a pretty decent sized clump. And that clump over there by the arbs is actually the older clump. This division here came off of that one over there. So here with the Yoshino, getting it into the higher shade, more open, where it gets a little bit more light, at least ambient light, and some sun shining in during the growing season, during the low-angled sun times of the day, morning and evening. It does get that light, but it's shaded in the afternoon from the worst and most severe, harshest sunlight during the day in the summer. And it does really well here. It likes it, and I quite like it as well. It's a nice bamboo. It's got these broad, almost tropical looking leaves, but it's anything from tropical. It's pretty tough and cold tolerant, but it has done really well here, and I'm very happy to see all this green foliage down in here underneath the wind burnt even. It's still pretty green down underneath. Looks good yet. Now, when spring comes, you could mow this down and let it start up again, mow it off before the new shoots come up, or you could just leave it and the old leaves would drop off and new shoots would come up, and just like it would in the wild. But in Japan, with a lot of the Sasa species, it's traditional just to mow them down and let it start over, because even if they don't get wind burnt, sometimes the leaves do get a little bit ragged looking throughout winter, and so it's just customary to come through and just chop it off with the lawnmower. And it's such small culms that most riding lawnmowers, maybe even a push mower even actually, could go through it without any problem. When it gets up to 6 feet, you might want to use a brush cutter, like a weed eater with a saw blade, maybe, if you did want to take it down before the new shoots started in the spring. But it wouldn't be difficult to do. And it's not been a rampant spreader here. It's been here for, oh gosh, in this particular spot, I believe it's been here for about 5 years, and it's only taking up a spot about 6 foot by 5 foot maybe in total. It's not huge. It's not a rampant spreader. It's one that you could definitely maintain with mowing around the edge to keep the new shoots from coming up too far out into the lawn if you only wanted a small spot of it. And I actually have another plant of this species up by a water fountain on the way out here to the garden that's actually in a 3-foot deep plastic barrel with the bottom cut out of it, and that has done well that way too. A lot of the bamboos, especially the larger ones, the Phylostachys in particular, wouldn't do well in something that confined, but the smaller bamboo, like this Sasa, does fine in a planting such as that. So there's definitely options if you wanted to grow it, and it does make a beautiful ground cover, and the broad leaves are really nice. And I've not had slugs bother Sasa, but I've heard that maybe it can happen under some circumstances, similar to a hosta. But I've grown Sasas and hostas together in other locations of the property, and the slugs will go after the hostas and not the Sasa. So if you have problems with slugs, you might give the Sasa a try if you want a shade plant similar to a hosta. Now, of course, you don't get the flowers like you do with the hostas with the Sasa, but it's still a nice, beautiful, broad green leaf surface to look almost a tropical type look. But over a hosta, of course, you get the leaves, still into winter, like these green leaves down here. Right, there we go. Hit my camera angled right. Whereas a hosta, as soon as first frost comes, that's pretty much it. But and like I say, I've not had a slug bother a Sasa species of bamboo. Not to say it couldn't, but they haven't for me. Whereas they do sometimes bother my hostas. But anyway, that has been a look and a winter update with Sasa oshidensis, and I appreciate you stopping by again, and I hope you'll join me again. And if you liked the video, please like, subscribe, and share. I'd really appreciate it. Until next time, take care. Thank you. Bye.